Hey, welcome everybody. I'm Chuck Carter, lead pastor here at Family Church in Central Florida. We're a multi-site, multi-generational, multi-ethnic church. We have 5 campuses now with 3 languages, 14 weekend services live, and we stream all of our live services on, we stream all of them. I'm with, as always, my cohort here.
There we go. And I'm Felipe Mendez, online pastor here at Family Church. It's a blessing to have you here with us. This is the 2nd season of our podcast, and this podcast is for everybody. It's for everyone, any church goer, everyone that wants to see the church thrive in this rapidly changing culture that we're living in right now.
Absolutely. And this season, we're looking at the church and the culture. What does it mean for the church to be salt and light in the culture? What kind of is our responsibility to the culture? What does it mean to love our neighbor as ourselves? And so happy today. I can't think of a better person to talk about this topic than Jimmy Scroggins. Jimmy is the lead pastor of Family Church, the original Family Church in South Florida. We actually stole our name from them. And so Jimmy, welcome. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself, about the church, anything you want to share.
Sure. So Jimmy Scroggins, been married to my wife, Kristen, for 30 years this year. We have 6 sons and 2 daughters. We have 2 daughters-in-law, 4 grandchildren. We have a daughter-in-law to be. One of my sons is getting married in June of 2024. And so we've been here at Family Church for 16 years. We came in 2008. And originally our church was the First Baptist Church of West Palm Beach, Florida. It's a downtown legacy Southern Baptist church, started in 1901 in this neighborhood. And now we're a multi-site church. We have 15 campuses across 3 counties and 3 languages. And we're a lot like Family Church in Central Florida. We have certainly a multi-ethnic, multi-generational, multi-site church, and we're doing a lot of the same things that you are. And Chuck, I know we laugh about because we were named Family Church before you were, and your son is on staff at our church, so we're connected. We talk all the time, and I will say that it's hard to take a name like Family Church and say you stole it, because we definitely didn't interview. We didn't invent the word family. We didn't invent the word church. So I think those are terms that a lot of people probably can use.
Yeah, when I walked into our elders meeting, talked about, hey, I think because look, we had hired a firm and paid them a lot of money to come up with a name, and they came back with,
Heart church.
Those Greek words, whatever, and nobody's going to connect with that. So I walked in and said, how about Family Church, right? And they go, well, isn't that where Seth is at Family Church? I said, yeah, but how many Calvary churches do you know? How many, I even know more than one Beulah, okay? So there's no exclusivity to the name, and we love it. Right. Our people love it, and so happy that we're doing it. So
I didn't know you were paying for that, because you didn't really pay us anything for that. So I don't know. You did because you paid a firm for nothing. But you did give us your son and your daughter-in-law and your grandchildren, so we'll take it.
That's right. And by the way, I've been married 41 years, and
there you go.
I've got my 4th grandchild coming in about a month now there at Family Church. So
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we're excited about that.
So Pastor Jimmy, we know that you now living in a church, you're leading a church that has 15 or more campuses. Could you please add in more information into this? Like, why do you believe that this model is the best model to work for you? And can you give us more insight on this matter?
Yeah, I think what you said is really important. I think this is the best model that works for us. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lot of different ways. If you look in the Bible on how to organize church, there's a few clear principles. And then there's some hints at some other things you can glean. And then, of course, you can study early church history. But the truth is, I think there's a lot of opportunity for innovation and variation when it comes to how we organize and strategize to advance the kingdom through local churches. At our church, we do it this way. We believe in a neighborhood church model. So we want to put a neighborhood pastor in a neighborhood church, in a neighborhood building that speaks the neighborhood language. And then we want to add a neighborhood school in every neighborhood in South Florida that we can. We're focused at this point exclusively on South Florida, and that's our mission field. And so we're working at that. And then through that, we've started churches from scratch in schools and rented facilities. But the majority at this point of our new campuses have come through what we call strategic partnerships. Others may call mergers, but combining with another church and then injecting some new life into a facility that maybe has been there for a while and was maybe underutilized.
Yeah, I think that is so vital. By the way, as you were sharing, I was thinking, I'm going to start a movement. You should be Bishop Scroggins, right? I mean, you really should be, right?
Yeah.
I really, what you said is so important. One of the reasons I think the multi-site is a viable model for today is because we know, depending on who you listen to, a third to half of the churches in America are struggling. And I am so big on real estate. We don't need to give up any real estate whatsoever. If it's in the kingdom, let's keep it in the kingdom. And when Seth graduated from high school, we went over to London as a trip, and we were staying right on Hyde Park, and we saw this beautiful cathedral down the road. So I said, Seth, let's go take a look at it. We went down there, walked into the cathedral. It was the lobby of an apartment complex. They had taken the back of the church off, kept the front as their lobby. And I thought, I mean, my heart sunk, right? And so one of the ways to make sure that we don't lose real estate is through a healthy church coming in, that strategic partnership and working together. And what we found is if a church is healthy, there's a high success rate of revitalization in these churches that are struggling. And I know you've seen that too, you know. So
We have, and we think too, the New Testament pattern is that stronger churches fund and strengthen struggling churches and new churches.
yeah,
So if you read the book of Acts, read Paul's letters, that's what you're going to see over and over and over again. And so we see this as a way to fund and strengthen a struggling church or a new church. Not the only way, and I'm not saying it's the best way, but we've seen a lot of success doing it this way.
yeah, absolutely. So one time we were talking and you talked about kind of the parish model and some things that you
Yep.
had learned from that. And out of that, man, it was just brilliant, right? A Catholic church, when they plant a parish church, they build
Yep.
a school with it.
That's
And
right.
so I know that's a passion of yours right now. So kind of share about that, what you're doing and why that's important for you.
So I have learned a lot from the Catholic Church in the way that they have organized around the world. Now, I have serious theological differences with the Catholic Church, so I want to be clear about that. But I do think organizationally, there are some things that you can learn. So we do have a parish model. You joke about being a bishop, but in some ways that is a role that I play in
Absolutely.
the sense that I'm a lead pastor of this family of churches, and then each church has its own preaching pastor and live local leadership and live local teaching. We don't do it on screens, but my job is to coach and supervise and encourage and resource these pastors as they try to reach their neighborhoods for Christ. And each one of these churches is an outpost for Jesus Christ in that neighborhood. To that end, one of the things that the Catholics did, if you go in America, if you go all the way back to the 1700s, Catholics come to the New World, came to the United States, but the Catholics were treated with a lot of suspicion and hostility. They were treated like an unfavorable religious minority. And that was true for them for a couple of hundred years in this country. And their response was they put a neighborhood priest in a neighborhood church, in a neighborhood building. They spoke the neighborhood language, so a lot of them were ethnically kind of oriented. And then they put a neighborhood school in the middle of that. And that is how they held their faith together and their families together. They did evangelism that way for 200 years. And it wasn't until the middle 1900s, really when John F. Kennedy became the president, that Catholics were sort of mainstreamed and accepted into the mainstream of American society. But they held it together in a hostile culture for 200 years using this formula. I actually think as we enter a negative world, I think evangelical churches and Baptist churches like your church and my church, we can do the exact same thing in a negative world. We can hold it together and do evangelism following the model that's already, they have a proof of concept in this country, pioneered by the Catholics. And we can do the same thing, but do it with better theology.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when you're organizing this, some of the questions that are going to come up is, um, first of all, price points. I mean, we have Christian church schools all around us, and people are saying, yeah, but it's too expensive for me to send my kid. If you're not separating out of the world, are we isolating ourselves, becoming holy huddles? How are you dealing with some of those issues?
Well, I think one thing is you have to decide, do you believe that we are entering a negative world? I find that undeniable in the place where I live. I'm pretty sure almost every metropolitan area in the United States will feel that. I'm sure that there are some others in more rural, or there are probably some upscale suburban districts where they're saying, no, everybody at our school, public school, is a Christian. The principal goes here and the superintendent. But at most urban and metropolitan areas are going to be blue when it comes to their political and cultural orientation. And if you are an evangelical, a conservative, Bible believing, gospel preaching evangelical church in a blue city, even in a red state, you're going to feel the incongruence between the policies and the curriculum in your local public schools and what Christian families want to be teaching their children.
Yeah.
And so what you're going to have is increasingly, you're going to have Christians who are going to say, hey, I want to have my kids in public school. Like, I was a public school kid. My dad taught in the public schools in the state of Florida for 40 years. But when you're hearing stories about parents saying, hey, I didn't really like it that my kid's first grade teacher made him wear a name tag with his pronouns, and then trying to explain to him why that was important. I'm not going to be able to send my kid to a school where that is the policy. And even though individual teachers, administrators, and others may be solid Christians and may have the best of intentions and may actually share all of our values and beliefs, the system itself at the policy making level is against. They're not neutral towards what we believe and who we are. It is hostile and antithetical to what we believe. And as parents begin to figure that out, and that's going to become more and more, regardless of whether Republicans or Democrats are in office, as parents figure that out, it's going to become more and more important. And I think the vast majority of Christian parents are going to be looking for alternatives to the public schools.
Yeah, I fully agree with everything that you said. In fact, when I moved here 26 years ago, I was amazed that that parents would send their kids to a private Christian elementary school and then off to a state college. And look, 26 years ago, your third grader wasn't trying to make your kid a Marxist, but they were in state universities. But
Right.
that's no longer the case, right? In elementary school, it's just, so we have private schools at two of our campuses, but I fully agree with that. So then to do that, you got to have real estate.
Yeah,
So
you do.
here's what we have so many churches around us. They are looking back at nostalgia, the good old days. I mean, I've consulted churches where at one time they were running 700. Now they're running 70. The average age is 70. There's more white and blue hair than any other color in there. What would you say to somebody who's sitting in the pew or somebody who's leading a church that realizes all we're doing is hanging on?
I mean, I do think that I think the merger conversation is a good one for churches like that. If they could find a stronger church in their region that would have the momentum, the financial capacity, the leadership capacity to come alongside them and create a strategic partnership to reinvigorate the gospel outposts where they have invested their lives, their money, their prayers, and reinvigorate that gospel outpost so it can live to fight for another generation, I think they ought to consider it. It's hard for them to consider because it feels like you're losing something. So these people feel defeated when they have to have this conversation. They feel like they're waving the white flag, like they're giving up on the gospel dreams that they had for that place or that building or that, that location. Sometimes they feel like they're giving up on God, like they're like, God can turn this around. And I'm sympathetic to all of that, but the truth is, this could be the way that
Yeah.
God turns it all around.
Yeah.
And this could be the way that God wants to use everything that's been invested in that location and give it a future so that future generations can continue to hear the gospel there, baptize their children there, get married there, have their funerals there, and that can become an outpost for Jesus Christ, and it can live again, and maybe it's possible that its greatest days will be ahead of them. But I think people have to really look at reality and say, if it's like, and Chuck, you and I both encounter churches like this all the time. They used to run 700, now they run 70. Average age is 70. If you're not reaching preschoolers and young families,
Yeah.
your church is done.
It
It's
is.
just a matter of time.
It is. Absolutely. Well, that's awesome. Well, Jimmy, if you could, is there anything you'd like to share that we hadn't talked about? Kind of what do you see as what's on the front burner for you right now?
Well, the front burner for me right now is we're just having unprecedented momentum, like a lot of churches like yours. Our attendance is higher than it's ever been. Our giving is higher than it's ever been. We're reaching new people at a faster rate than we've ever reached them before. Some of that is consolidation. So some of that is smaller churches are struggling and dying, and people are migrating to stronger and larger and healthier churches. Some of it is we're reaching a lot of unchurched and dechurched people who are what I would call normies, who are frightened and alarmed and unsettled by the rapid changes taking place all around us in our culture. And they're looking for some people who look like they've got something solid going. And we're seeing all kinds of men and single moms and families show up and just go, hey, like I had a couple come a couple weeks ago, young couple in their 20s, they're living together. They're not religious. And I say, hey, why'd you come to family church? And they said, well, we're thinking about getting married. We're thinking about starting a family, and we need values.
Yeah.
And I said, what do you mean by that? They said, well, like, we don't have any values. Like, we need to have some values to build our family on. We don't know how to do it. And we came here, your name's Family Church. And we wanted to see if you could help us.
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly what we're seeing in terms of evangelism all the time.
That is awesome. Hey, Jimmy, thank you for taking the time and being a part of our podcast today. I appreciate you. I appreciate all you're doing for my son and his family. And man, I get to sleep well at night knowing that he's a part of Family Church there. And y'all have really helped him to thrive. And I appreciate that. Appreciate you so much in your ministry.
Hey, back at you, Chuck. You guys are a tremendous encouragement. You're a great example of a husband and a father and a pastor, and longevity in all of it. Pastoring well over many years, being married well over many years. And so I'm a great admirer of you personally. And of course, having a sister church, we even got the same name. So I kind of feel like we're related.
That's right.
So one more time, thank you, Pastor Jimmy. Thank you, Pastor Chuck. And thank you for joining us on this episode for our Family Church podcast. I would like to highlight that Family Church West Palm also have a podcast. The name of the podcast is Church for the Rest of Us, and the links will be here and the show notes of this episode. Always like, subscribe, share this with your friends, your family, and we're going to join for a new episode again in 2 weeks.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Jimmy. See you guys in a couple weeks.
Thank you. Bye.